Hey guys, I am really excited to have an opportunity to introduce you to my dear friend from Australia, Christine Sullivan. And some of you have heard you've heard me talk before about Christine. I'm going to say this about Christine because I don't know whether she would say this about herself, but I'm of the view that of all of the gems that Australia has produced, of which there are many, Christine is one of the rare and special gems. One of the greatest vocalists that Australia has ever produced. And gosh, I've known Christine since the 80s, somewhere in the late 80s, I think. Maybe back in the Limerick Arms days. Christine, when was that?
That would have been 90s.
Was it early
Mid
90s?
90s. Yeah, mid
No, it
90s.
couldn't have been mid
Oh,
90s because I've been
oh
here
no.
since
All right, okay.
1994.
All right.
Yeah, must have been
So
early
yeah,
90s.
early
Yeah.
90s, there it is.
So, anyway, 30 plus years. And I wanted an opportunity to talk with Christine today and asked her to hop on a call and said that I wanted to record it and send this out to everyone. Not only to introduce you to Christine and she's just a beautiful human being and an incredible vocalist. But I also want to bring a spotlight to a book that Christine has written, edited, compiled. So there's a few things that I want to do. I want to just start by reading an edited bio that I sort of stole from a few different places, including Wikipedia. So originally from Tasmania,
Yes,
Australia, little Tasmania
yes.
down the bottom of the
Little,
country. Then moved to Melbourne in like 86.
yeah,
And you've lived between Melbourne and the USA,
yes,
East Coast, yeah. So Christine studied classical vocal technique at the Melbourne Conservatorium and also studied with the American soul gospel session vocalist Vanetta Fields, who is just Vanetta Fields is a force to be reckoned with. I think she was one of the vocalists with Steely Dan, which is really a duo that had a floating entourage of world-class musicians throughout their career, of whom Vanetta was one of those incredible vocalists. Christine, by personal and direct invitation, was asked by Ronnie Scott to perform at his famous jazz club in London. I'm sure many of you have heard about Ronnie Scott. Christine's performed at stacks of Australian jazz festivals. She's produced and released 7 CDs and then has been a contributing performer on over 20 additional CDs with Australian legends and international legends. So I'll just tell you some of the names. And those of you here from the United States or outside of Australia may not be familiar with a lot of these artists, but certainly some of the artists here you will be familiar with. So some of the Australian heavyweights that Christine's worked with: James Morrison, Paul Brogowski, Don Burrows, Graham Lyle, Tony Gould, Doug DeVries, David Hirschfelder, Joe Chindamo, incredible pianist, David Jones, one of the best drummers on the planet, Jeremy Allsop, one of the best bass players on the planet, Kurt Elling, many of you will know Kurt Elling, the American pianist, Grady Tate, Randy Crawford, incredible vocalist, Don McLean, Art Garfunkel. Really dynamic, really diverse. What an eclectic spread of musicians there, Christine. Amazing. Firstly, thanks a lot for being on this call. I really appreciate it. Nice
thank
to see your
you.
face.
Lovely to see you too, likewise. Really lovely.
Hey, so this is really cool, guys, because when I first said to Christine, let's have a conversation, she was reluctant to have her face on screen because she's shy. Isn't that great? And listen, what's really amazing about it is when you see Christine perform live on stage, she is just such a clear, brilliant, powerful energy force. And yet there's such a quiet, sensitive, beautiful, restrained humility. And she's just a beautiful human being, a beautiful person, and a huge social conscience and a giant loving heart. So great to speak to you today, darling. Okay,
Likewise.
so firstly, how are you?
Good and happy. And even happier to be speaking to you,
Thank you, darling.
and we're so lucky in this time, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah,
To be safe and well, and
yeah. I'm
we
not sure when.
know that are working in the industry, that are in the hospitals. My niece is working in the hospitals. Her life is you know.
Mm.
It's very challenging.
Mm.
But, you know, we can adapt. And, you know, being online is a wonderful thing. I've seen
Yep.
a few concerts live.
Yep.
You know, we can do this.
Yeah, we've all gotten very, very familiar with meeting people online, working online, socializing online, educating ourselves online.
Yes.
Strange time.
Yeah, it is strange.
So, everyone, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was this book. It's called The Singer's Companion, Personal Wisdom from the Global Music Industry. I said to Christine, I think it should be called The Artist's Companion, because this is a really unique curation of wisdom from a whole... How many contributors in total, Christine?
115.
Really diverse collection of artists sharing all sorts of insights. I'm going to read a brief explanation about the book, and then I've got a couple of questions for you, Christine. So, so here's what it says about the book. This is a unique musician's companion, a go-to manual for help and support, a keepsake, a reference book curated, compiled and edited by two experienced Australian-based arts supporters. Christine Sullivan is an international singer, recording artist, performer and teacher. Monica Roleff is an arts worker, word and arts festival coordinator, writer and author. Both are voice enthusiasts with a rich ancestral heritage in the field. I love that. The vision was to pull together a valuable tool in book format using a selection of questions, anecdotes, quotes, and words of wisdom directly from professional artists, technicians, musicians, and singers. The project provides an inspirational platform of experience-based advice for aspiring students, teachers, arts, music organisations, and the general public interested in the life and journey of an artist. Primarily, it's a gift of words of wisdom from industry elders and emerging talents from different musical generations, genres, and age groups to be used by the reader as an industry guide. What a really lovely description of what you've done. So why did you do this?
We wanted to give back to all of the people that we remembered that had helped us and inspired us. But it was a Simply Music interview that you and Gordon instigated that triggered the idea. So you sent me a collection of lovely questions. And it got such a great response when Gordon finally presented this in this beautiful format. You know, I showed a few people in New York and my mentor in New York, and he said, musicians and artists should be reading this. Everyone should read this. And I thought, maybe I've got something to give, you know, maybe I could, you know, ask some questions and maybe I could do something similar. Or anyway, this little seed was planted by you and Gordon. Thank you humbly. And so when I was chatting to Monica on our regular chats, Monica's in Melbourne, I'm in Queensland, we were chatting. We were looking for something interesting to do. And we thought, and I brought up this article, and the effect of the article was so lovely. I said to Mon, let's consider doing a book, and we chatted about it. And then, first of all, we were going to ask artists to send us questions that they would want answered. And that kind of that was a bit hard for a few people, so that didn't work. So we thought, all right, we'll just contact as many people as we know that have helped us in our lives, starting with our family, with our friends, and then into the broader community of people in our era, you know, that helped us through, inspired us. And we had so many people, we thought we'd have to do 15 editions, you know, because we know so many people between us. And for example, Monica's father is an opera singer. Her sister is a songwriter and beautiful songwriter and singer. Lucy Roleff, just beautiful. So we thought, look, these age groups and these people have got so much to offer. We want to give back in a joyous way, create a gift that people could have and feel as if it's a gift, and a gift to share, something that they can share, something that they can take to college, university, pop in their little bag, backpack. Something not too big, not too heavy, something easy to read, something that they can put beside their bed, and a little gift to inspire, just to keep people going. Because I think singers particularly, I think people that are vocalists, it's a difficult thing, and singers in particular, singers who, need musical directors, or they need songwriters and songs, and that are just singers. I'm a singer. I'm not a songwriter in the pure sense, and I'm not or experienced. And I need a musical director because I can read. Thanks to your program, I can read and play a little bit.
That's great.
But not at the level that I'm used to hearing behind me, with Joe and people like that, and Paul, and just incredible people. But I thought that singers just needed a little boost, Singers, vocalists. It's not easy to be a singer and a vocalist in front of a band. I don't think people realise. I think they have this dream of it all being fabulous, but it's really quite tough, and if you're shy like me, it's even tougher. But I think that, I thought maybe we all needed a boost, what Monica and I did, our families did. And it was before COVID, we just wanted something beautiful as a gift to create and to see if it worked. And we wanted to do it at the best capacity that we could. Monica's very good on the technical side of things, and she is already involved in creating books in the past. So the two of us were a perfect fit. We speak every week, and we continue to speak every week, once a week, about the book and about how we can, what else we can do and who else we can contact. And you just offered this beautiful interview to help us, which is so lovely. And when you're self-published, it's all a bit hard that, the papers don't necessarily want to review self-published books. It's not so easy. So we have to go through magazines, and we're gradually doing it. And I'm not, one to be kind of, on the internet all the time. I'm not, I kind of creep around the internet, creep around the laptop. I creep up to the phone. I'm not really an internet savvy person. But Monica is a little bit more than me. And she's really an artist though. But between us, we actually battle through and grapple with this. And, Neil, I only bought my first mobile phone in 2015 when I came back from New York. We didn't have a mobile phone in New York. I was a mess.
Christine.
I know. 2.5 years. People everywhere.
I love that.
I know. I used to go and have, a little avocado, the coffee and the ice cream at this little place. And the girl that served me every week, she would say, I cannot believe that you walk around this city without a mobile phone. She said, I couldn't live. And I'd be too nervous. I'd be too scared. And I said, look, I'm from I'm a 70s, 80s type of chick, I can handle it. I'm not afraid to walk around without a mobile phone. So that's what we did. And Frank was kind of forced into getting a mobile phone for one of his businesses that he was working for, and the companies, and we didn't use it. We didn't ring each other up on it or anything. It's just amazing.
Frank is Christine's partner, by the way.
Yes.
Everyone.
Yeah, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, that's just fine. When you started talking and you mentioned the article from the interview that we had done, or Gordon had done with you, I loved Gordon's article. I just feel that it was so really special. Oh. In fact, I was just talking to him about it recently. I think you should get that up onto Medium, because I just think there's so much richness. In fact, for everyone watching today, I'll make sure to include a link. It was an interview that Gordon and Christine did quite some time ago, and then he wrote the article surrounding the interview, and that went out on the Playground, our digital newsletter. So I'll include a link to that again, because it's really, really worth reading. One of the things that I think is really great about the Singer's Companion, which I think of as the artist's companion. So for so long, music has been regarded as an entertainment, an optional thing, but not really any serious professional opportunities, or certainly not as many professional opportunities. And yet when you look at this compilation, there's such a diversity of experiences. People have crafted all sorts of professions and careers, with music being the driving passion behind everything that they've done. And I love to see this diversity being expressed in the world so dynamically and so vibrantly, and it offering people the opportunity for such growth and such rich life experience and the ability to be able to share that with others. That's one of the things that I just think is really powerful, sort of profound, that you were able to curate that and assemble this and be able to offer it to people. So really thank you for that.
Thank you for noticing. But it wasn't heavily planned. We just knew so many people of different ages, that we were able to contact that had survived in a different way, in a unique way.
Yeah.
And we're still singing. There are women who are singing. A lady called Sandy White still conducts concerts in her home, invites people. Well, I think she still does, but she was still doing it when we were doing this book. She was inviting people to the home and creating concerts and recording CDs, and and she was in her 60s.
Yeah, fantastic.
And so it was great to hear from these people. And we had people in the show, in musicals. We had, there was a friend of mine whom I met as a dancer, became a great singing teacher, working for the James Morrison's college there in Melbourne. And he, his life is just so diverse, and his experience with music and with voice and with dance, it was just fantastic to hear his view. And then, of course, Vanetta, to hear Vanetta's view. Vanetta had taught me so much, and she had I remember everything she ever said to me, I remembered clearly. Yeah. And I reminded her of that, and then she would add a few more little gems that she remembered. And these women and these men and all of these, and the youngest, I think she's 15 going on 16. So it was really lovely just to hear everyone's perspective and to connect with them again. A lot of people that inspired me. Carmel Quinlan is one. Her name was Caramel in our day, and she sang like Chaka Khan, this woman. And I said, how did you, tell me about your process. How we use those words now. Tell me about your process, my darling. She didn't have a process. All I did was listen with big ears, big Dumbo ears. Just absorbing everything like a sponge. And what came out was this magnificence, and she doesn't sound like Chaka Khan, she's just inspired. But my God, and the way she sang some of those screaming, piercing, high, clear, crystal glass cutting, sounds of the upper register. I was inspired by this. I was a little bit of a hippie and singing quite softly and gently and in a different way when we met. But when I heard this, I thought, I need to know how to do this. I need to know how to do that. So I went to a singing teacher in Melbourne. In Sydney. I flew up there deliberately. I was like 18 or something, to go to this guy, and worked at David Jones, just to meet with Professor Phillipsborn. And he taught me all this stuff because he was teaching Renee Geyer. He had taught Joan Sutherland. Oh my God. He taught Debbie Byrne. He taught Johnny O'Keeffe's daughter was going on before me. And you had to get up early to get in. The interview was really tight because he was very fussy. And so, he really had to, negotiate getting into these lessons. So I finally got in, and I would go there with my David Jones uniform, selling, and one day even Joan Sutherland actually came in to the department I was working in to buy an acrylic jumper, and I got her to sign one of the dockets. Would you please sign Dame Joan? And she did. It was so lovely. But she was a student of Professor Phillipsborn at one point in her life when she was younger. So just to I've almost lost my point of view, but point. But anyway, just
amazing story.
Amazing story. And Carmel just inspired that, wanting to do this. And so when I developed my head voice with this teacher, I was lying on the floor. He used to get you to lie on the floor because the whole thing is relaxed when you're lying on the floor, and the diaphragm's kind of supported, and it's all just nice and there, And suddenly this sound came out. I discovered this sound that Carmel could do, and it was crystal clear, and it was loud as anything. It was so loud. And I rushed back to Professor and said, "My God, I've discovered this part of my head voice." And he said to me, "What you can do," he said, "do little, the less is more." He said, "Do not hit people over the head with too much of anything." He said, "Give them a little bit every now and then, and everything will be good." And I kept that. I remembered that. And I thought, just show them a little bit. Don't hammer them with the sound, just, because it's too much. He was just so genteel and so sophisticated. And I learned how to look after my voice from him, He taught a range of people, the contemporary to the classical, and he was very understanding of how the equipment works and how to protect it. So it was really good getting that early classical training from the age of, say, how old was I? How old was I then? 21, just for a year. So I absorbed enough. And then I was interested enough because I really wanted to keep the head voice to be in control of the head voice, because high notes can be destructive if you overuse them. So I went down went to Melbourne Conservatorium, and I did 10 weeks, only 10 weeks. Just because I didn't want to lose the lower register, so I didn't want the whole voice to be raised up into the head. So I just stayed for 10 weeks to just learn a lot of stuff, and then I just absorbed it all in and kept listening. But Carmel, she's in the book, and she's the greatest singer. She's one of my greatest. I just love her. I love her singing so much. And just to hear that she was she just listened, was just the most beautiful thing to hear, and so inspiring, And also just to connect with her again and have her in the book was just such a loving experience, just heartwarming to come.
We just got interrupted by my phone. My apologies.
Oh, that's right. I've just turned mine off too.
It can be a little challenging sometimes for people to get a sense of what a book has to offer, particularly when we're talking about it. I want to read an edited extract from an article written about the book. This is by Leon Gettler, who's he's a freelance journalist who writes for the Melbourne Age, which is one of the preeminent Australian newspapers, as well as the Herald Sun. So here's what he said, and I think he nails it. He says, "This is a massively ambitious book. It gives the perspectives of singers and performers crossing all ages and geographies. It gives them the platform to speak about their personal experiences in the global music entertainment industry. Each singer and performer writes in their own style. Every artist has their own story and tells us some of their crazy adventures. With questions and answers, they were asked about their histories, their influences, their approaches to music. They give tips to aspiring artists and talk about their own approach to their art. Each is different. Every artist has their own unique story. Reading this book makes you feel like you are reading about a giant family. Indeed, many came to their art because of their families. While a lot of them share common ground and influences, they all have their own unique perspectives. Bridget Allen's influences are Shakespeare for perspective and poetic prose, Maria Callas for relative pitch, mezzo-soprano, Carmen McRae for lyrical gesticulation, and Duke Ellington for an overview of band etiquette. Nichelle Fitzgibbon talks about learning from Mark Murphy, Sheila Jordan, Tina May and Kurt Elling, and working with Pharaoh Saunders at Ronnie Scott's. Joe Chindamo, pianist, who's worked with so many great singers like Dame Shirley Bassey, Dame Kiri Kanawa, Olivia Newton-John and Sophie Von Otter, says singers and musical performers are one. Jazz singer Linda Marks from Boston, USA, talks about the financial challenges facing singers. All up, It's an important book for singers and performers. It's full of insights and advice, letting everyone know they are part of a global community. This is where the real value of this book lies. Isn't that just wonderful, Christine? Look at what you've contributed. You've contributed so much. Really, you have.
You know, and to hear from Leon, who's a wordsmith and just a masterful, lovely thinker and a lovely writer, and a supporter over the years of all of the scene, the Melbourne scene, contributing so much with his intelligence and clarity, and just to hear from him, nailing all of our dreams, you know, in this book. And I think he's right. It was an ambitious book, and we were thinking that maybe we would have to do, because these were just the people that touched us, you know, it helped us rise. What about the next book? You know, wouldn't it be great to do another edition? So I'm hoping that if this book goes well, that we can actually do that, you know, that we can just keep doing more editions of this little thing, because there's so many little tweaks I'd like to do. Maybe the artists, you know, maybe your suggestion, just the artist's companion, and, you know, and even changing the word industry to community, you know, little things like that, little tweaks. We could keep doing this. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah, well, I want to make sure that people have an opportunity not only to get the book if this is something that has spoken to them. I'll provide a link. It's available on Amazon and
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble, yeah. With regard to your music, 7 CDs. Personally, Bloom, Here and Now, and Away. Really diverse collection that gives such a beautiful representation. Such a great vocalist, Christine. You are just extraordinary.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for spending some time with us today.
It's a pleasure.
I really appreciate it. It's lovely to see you. I love you very much. You're just beautiful.
I love you. And you've been supporting me for a long time. Your little faces were in front of us at the gigs, full of joy, you know, and support. I know that. Yeah. And I appreciate it so much.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
I will never forget. I'll never forget it.
Thank you, darling. Okay, guys, Christine Sullivan, just a beautiful human being, incredible vocalist, incredible artist, and she's contributed something wonderful with this book. And Christine, we'll just keep in touch and make sure that anything that you're doing with regards to this, if there's a next edition, then we'll be doing exactly the same thing, bringing us, you know, whatever exposure and shining whatever light we can to the wonderful work you've done.
Thank you.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Great to see you today.
Thank you so much.
Okay, everybody, take good care, and I'll see you soon.